The South African industry and its climate, I definitely think that it's in its teenage phase. Right now, we're rebelling, we are confused, we are all over the place, we are finding ourselves, we are having an identity crisis, but also like finding, our footing. It's a lot of different things, and I think it's like that puberty stage that we all went through in our lives.
Hello there, my name is Marcus Babusela and welcome to the Film Biz Show. In this show, we delve into the minds of industry professionals to get a sense of what their perspective is when it comes to the landscape of the film and television industry, both in South Africa and internationally. Please subscribe, like, comment, and turn on the notification button so you are aware of our future episodes that you will love so much. Today we have a very special episode. This podcast was built off of the backs of a very zealous team. We're a small and hardworking crew of filmmakers who have so many opinions on the film industry as a whole, and that's why we made this show. But wouldn't it be amazing if we heard from the people who make this all happen? Let's find out what the Film Biz Show team has to say about the industry.
Hi, my name is Kevin Kumalo. I am the founder and CEO of Fortune Well. Beside just wearing that hat, I'm also a cinematographer and a filmmaker, to put it in the simplest way.
Hi everyone, I'm Dante Maliwa. I'm a camera assistant, still a junior camera assist, and I also do editing, junior at that too.
My name is Dylan Bebe. I do camera and behind the scenes on this show.
Hey everybody, I hope you are well. My name is Julia Kamanga and I am the producer and editor of the Film Biz Show.
So on the show, obviously I'm an executive producer and director and DP. It's just very compact crew, so one has to wear all the hats, almost.
At the show, I do camera and audio. So yeah, I'm behind the scenes on the camera and audio. Yeah.
In actuality, I am a writer, a director, all-round filmmaker. I am an editor. I want to do everything, I think, in this industry except sound. Please do not give me sound jobs. But yeah, so I am an all-round filmmaker. I also have a YouTube channel, which you should definitely check out because I sometimes talk about film, and it's really cool.
Hello there, my name is Marcus Mabusela. I am an actor and a producer, and on the show, I am the host and also co-executive producer.
It starts very long ago. Let me say, growing up, was always fascinated by the idea of storytelling. Used to write and direct plays as a kid, Sunday school, and later in school, studied drama, and how just outside of performance and storytelling, how one fell in love with the whole medium, which the idea of film and television is. I was 13 years old. I remember it was after Sunday school. So what would usually happen is after church, we'll sit around and watch whatever VHS movie that my uncle would have organized for that weekend, and we'll sit and watch. And this particular film, it was an animated film, The Animal Farm, and watched. And halfway through the film, or at least towards the end of the film, I remember sitting in the back and I was in tears. The only kid crying in the whole, room. And obviously they laughed at me. I was like, hey, look at him. But something happened that day. I don't know how to explain it so it makes sense, but there was an emotional connection for the first time. I had been watching film your kung fu and action packed films and whatever it is that they showed in the 90s and was available at that time. But for the first time, I felt something, and I fell in love with the feeling. And it was then a thing of saying, I want to be able to do this myself. I was already in love with storytelling. So then it was saying, let me be part of, the environment or the people that are able to influence and tell stories that are impactful and emotional at most, and change minds at most. So, hey, that's in short my film story.
It's funny. Like, I feel like every kid when they're young, they always want to be an actor. Actor. People who inspired me to become an actor is people like Jim Carrey and Chris Tucker, because of how like they portray themselves in movies. They're always playing with their faces. Playing with their body languages. Also, an honorable mention is also the late Robin Williams. I would like to mention, but yeah, and how I became how I became part of filming is quite like coincidental, because my boss and I, we live in the same complex, and it just so happened that him and I got to speak, and I was brought into film. And it's funny because my first film is already like a Netflix film. It's not like I started at the bar and just, but anyway. And so while I was doing that, I fell in love with like behind the scene work, learning about like unit, learning about camera assist, DOP, director, all those things, because all I had in mind was actor. But once I started doing those other stuff, I fell in love with everything else, and I just fell in love with like filmmaking as a whole.
Beautiful question. My story is very. It's one of those that when you speak about, a lot of people need to really sit down and clean their ears because it's that deep. So me becoming a filmmaker literally is always been, like I would say, it's always been in me. And looking into the times when I would watch like a Drake music video, or maybe just listen to a single that is not out, I'll literally just create a storyline in my head, like, and wonder what that was. I just couldn't understand it at that time. Then as the journey went, I met a very, like, this is like the person that even now I'm here, I met Kevin, that guy, then changed my life for sure. I was supposed to be working at a restaurant, but boom, I'm getting an interview about my film. You know what I'm trying to say? But yeah, man, that's how the journey started, literally.
So my film story is kind of all over the place. I accidentally fell in love with film. It was something that seemed to have just been following me everywhere that I was. When I was younger, when I started learning that novels were a big thing in my life and something that I was really interested in, I fell in love with the idea of writing. I used to write stories all the time, and eventually I started accidentally writing scripts. As in, I'd literally write small stories and then ask my cousins and sisters to act them out during December holidays, and it would be really cool to see like what my story meant in reality. And I kind of fell in love with this idea of the power a writer had. And at some point when I was 15, my sister found this database of scripts, where we could just get free scripts from all these movies we've watched, and I would read them and be like, wow, this is so different to what it was on screen, or this is how it sounded. That's amazing. Like seeing how people describe the work that ended up becoming this movie that I loved. And I started reading scripts of things I've never even seen and still haven't seen to this day. But it made me fall in love with this format, and I'd start writing my own proper scripts, really bad, horrible, nobody should see them ever in their life type of scripts, okay? Like I'm talking inconsistency. But my little sister used to act them out with me, and again, it showed me that, I could really create this world. Fast forward, I also have a brother-in-law who's in film, and seeing him in this space allowed me to see what could actually really happen. Like the space is accessible to someone like me. And eventually, I remember when I was in grade 11, when the schools would come through, they would be like, hey, these schools are here, there's VITS, there's this whatever. But I remember afterwards, all I wanted to, attend, because it's like they just focused on film and that's all I wanted to do. I did not go to after. I went to Wits and I studied film, and I fell in love with cinematography, and I fell in love with, directing. I just wanted to write when I got there, but I ended up coming out a jack of all trades, and somehow I ended up editing. My story is all over the place, but hopefully you'll see me doing a million other things in the future. Watch the space.
Sure. I actually started out in the theatre as an actor. Started at the Market Theatre. I absolutely fell in love with the craft. But my aspirations were always to go into producing, because I come from a lineage of entrepreneurs in my family, and I've always wanted to be in business. It's just when I found out, after searching as an adult, that my calling is storytelling, I thought then I'd go into the business of storytelling. Initially, I tried and failed dismally to invest in theater until I realized that theater is actually not a business. What do we know? It's not a business. So I put my own money thinking I'd make money back with gate takings, and it's just not how it works. There's a whole model to how theater works. So then, the question is about filmmaking and not about the passion and love of film. So then I thought, and I started doing my research, because in business, usually what would happen, what happens is, you invest in a product, and then you sell the product, or you're just someone who sells the product. So I wanted something that I could work with. I could see that, okay, I've put this into a product and I've identified my market and I want to sell. So, my love, my desire to make films was birthed from my desire to be, an entrepreneur. But I wanted to tell stories that were truthful, stories that had, a meaning. And obviously, and I think my background in theater informed my attention to detail, detail in terms of writing, in terms of aesthetic, because I think in South Africa, without question, we are one of the best theater makers. And my quest was, how can we take the same excellence that we see on stage and kind of translate it to the medium of filmmaking? And lo and behold, I realized, sure, making films is a much bigger task, because it's just a whole, it's a collaborative, craft, and technically it's much more, it demanding than But yeah, that's how I got into it.
It's beautiful because guys like me that are from across country, I'm from Zim, so like there's a lot of opportunities for anyone. So I look at it as like this is, if not, this is the best industry ever to be in. Like if I die, I wanna come back as a DOP. I don't care. Like I wanna come back as a DOP, nothing else. Yeah.
I think when I think about the local film and television industry, there is excitement. And the reason for that excitement is, as much as there might be whatever challenges that we're experiencing as the industry, but more than the challenges, there's, hope for something, better, something beautiful. And I think for us, even more so, where your big, what excites is, where your Hollywoods and all these other big film industry players, they've almost somewhat reached a pinnacle in terms of the kind of content and the kind of things that they can do. Whereas for us, we're still at the earliest of stages,
Definitely think that it's in its teenage phase. Right now, we're rebelling. We are confused. We are all over the place. We are finding ourselves. We are having an identity crisis, but also like finding, our footing. It's a lot of different things, and I think it's like that puberty stage that we all went through in our lives.
I feel like it's open game, from that direction, the specific direction in which I'm seeing it. I feel like it's really, if we stopped complaining and looking at all the negatives, we're in a space where there's a lot of opportunity for young filmmakers, for people who are thinking forward. But we are in a transition period where we are kind of trying to make sense of this climate, and I think we're yet to fully explore the potential of the space. I know in Africa, South Africa has been seen as if as we are the mecca of filmmaking, and I feel like as much as we are ahead of our brothers and sisters in other territories on the continent, we still have a long way to go.
We yet to have, a space where we can create whatever blockbuster films and not just only sci-fi movies that will, live up to the standards of Hollywood, which says, for me, it can only be exciting what the future entails. But not only that, I think the influx of the younger generation, that's exciting in itself. Very creative, obviously with the understanding of the tools that are available from the technologies and the AIs or whatever is that's out there that allows for us to create and curate good quality visuals and content.
I definitely have so much faith in it because people are passionate and driven, but also some people are just like unnecessary, but passionate and driven in the space. And I think all these factors are okay. Like, I think it's definitely going to help us find our footing and our grounding. I definitely think we lost it at some point, pre-2010. Whenever you hear that statement, I wrote it. But we did lose it at some point, and I definitely think that we're in a space not to get it back per se. I don't think we can ever get that magic back, and it's okay. I think we need to be okay with the fact that it's gone. That was for that time. That was for those filmmakers out there. Right now, we are creating our own craft that makes sense with this new climate we're in. We are no longer coming straight from apartheid, and we're trying to find what freedom looks like to us. But we are coming from a space that's so unknown to us. We were trying to find our identity in that space. And I definitely think that that's why this teenage stage is so interesting.
And I think we need to explore, the possibilities. And I'm talking in terms of, the financing models that we do. With streaming, now that's there, it opens big opportunities for this sector to receive investments. So we need investors who can come on board and see the actual, potential, the actual financial potential, economic potential of this industry. And I think, South Africa is very much open to business. We've got, trade policies like AGOA with the US. We are part of BRICS. We've got bilateral, what do you call these agreements with, countries like Canada, the UK. So there's a lot to explore in terms of unlocking those opportunities, creating, collaborations with other countries. We are far ahead of, other countries in the continent. And I think it's about time we really grasped that and held on to that. So I'm very excited about the future. It's daunting. It's a lot. There's a lot, and I think that's the reason why we decided to start this podcast, to say, how do we dismantle this piece by piece and get to understand this monster, being at a film market last year in Cape Town, and I was sitting with a producer who's got like 20, 30 years and a white male. And he's still trying to figure it out. He's got 20, 30 years experience. He's still he's like, dude, we're still trying to figure it out, So that let me know that, okay, this is really and truly open game. and it's for the ones who really want it, and we will have it, so it's exciting times, stressful but exciting.
If anything else, also the idea that more and more conversations about, the industry, coming out and in whatever form, in whatever platform, that it also guarantees that then change is definitely coming. The more we talk about where we are, the more we will aspire to be somewhere even greater. So, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that we're going to have this really amazing turnout of what we could become. So I'm really excited to see what this industry is. And I definitely hope everyone's patient enough to try and create and drive this industry, because your voices are all going to be so important in what we become.
Aspirations for the African film industry obviously is for our work to reflect our culture, for us to influence our culture directly. I think it's very important for us to be in the driver's seat of the conversation as to where culture goes to. And I know at times it's very difficult to kind of discern as to what's ours and what belongs to the world. But I think we need to really own our culture. We've got exciting things coming up, coming from the continent. Our musicians are headlining the biggest stadiums in the world. And I think, that's us, testament to the potential that we have as Africans in terms of, driving culture. So I think my aspiration for African film is for us to really and truly, take control of the narrative. I think the first gear is what Nollywood was able to do, which is basically unlock the economic potential of that market. But, it was just only one step. And it was amazing in that time when we discovered sheesh. There's actually millions in the sector, especially, I think what blew our minds away was how informal their model was and how well it worked. But now we realize, for a global appetite, quality is of such importance. So it's one thing unlocking the economic potential, but it's another thing raising the creative standard, and I think we have to match those two. And obviously we're not at a point where, we've moved on from a place where we can sell DVDs, shoot a movie, sell DVDs from the boot of your car. Now we're talking languages like licensing, commissioning, pre-licensing agreements, and we have to understand the legalities of, the new model, and we have to understand that, it's up to us. And I think there's a lot of potential for, private investors to make good money. And I think it's up to us as creatives to be able to build strong enough models, to be able to have the right conversations with investors. Yeah, that's that.
My aspirations for the African film industry as a whole is that we contribute. Like, I think the coolest thing about the African space is that we have so many amazing, unique stories, but also so many of our stories are very similar. Like, we have similar lived experiences. You find out games that you played as a child are also played in like Sudan or something, and you're like, wow, how did we all kind of relate before social media and play the same games? Also in Brazil, they're doing this, whatever. But I think as Africans, we have such a big shared history, and we know this about ourselves, but we always stay very far away from each other. And I definitely think creatives are the people to bring us together. I would love that it's not just we're collaborating with Nigerian filmmakers and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, Nigeria is the second biggest market out there, but economically. But like, I definitely think that there's so many different countries. SADC can all contribute and create something, do something with Botswana, do something with Lesotho, Swaziland even, because we always forget that these countries exist in our own spaces right here. Do something with Zimbabwe and Zambia, I definitely think that we can collaborate and create beautiful stories, especially because in South Africa we're like the New York of of, you know, like Africa, in the sense of like there's so many different personalities and people here, and we need to come together and really collaborate. And I definitely think that would be so exciting, because we could create so many new stories and we could definitely influence each other a lot. And I think because I read a lot of books from different African countries, the stories that they tell are so different to what we tell. What would it look like if we marry the ideas together, you know?
Obviously, one, the possible collaborations, as the previous guys mentioned as well, to say, you know, through the lowering of the boundaries that separate us, then we will be able to collaborate with other, you know, African brothers and sisters, and tell stories that, you know, are very, you know, diverse but still unique to the continent, and be able to one, invite and engage with all the other international people who are out there who might be curious about the continent, about our cultures, and about what we as Africans are about. And through the films and the stories that we'll be able to tell, I think, you know, one can only look forward to what, you know, is possible.
Well, like I said, because I'm young, you know, I'll have that like whole new kind of mindset and kind of different way of thinking compared to how things were done back then. So I feel like contributing my kind of ideas into the film industry now is gonna like make a big difference. Like how I edit things, how I put in the work, how I see the camera, and all of those other things. So also that helps, but not saying that I don't watch or listen to, you know, the old way of doing things. Like I take that in. That's one thing that I do. I like taking things in, whether it's like new, whether it's old, whether people don't really listen to it. If it's good for me, I take it in, and I see how that's gonna work into my favor going into what I'm gonna be doing. So I feel like aspiring for African film, it's just like the way, like I said before, the way how things are going now, it's only gonna get better. I would like for my peers to be more open, more, instead of trying to copy what everyone else is doing. Like if each individual was to do things the way they see it, I feel like we can start up a new, like, you know, way of seeing things.
And my contribution to that, I think, being able to encourage, motivate, and try and bring as much interest for young people to the industry as possible. Because I think if the next generation is open to the possibilities in the space, that means even more, you know, I think more than anything else, it's the stories that are to come, you know, and I'm curious, that young kid that's gonna write the next sci-fi, or the first sci-fi that will be a blockbuster that's coming out of, you know, Africa, outside of your Marvels and whoever else that comes from Hollywood and tell these stories. You know, I think, and if there's a possibility that through this conversation, one of those kids, you know, come out, then one would have played their part.
And I definitely think my contribution is to try, if I can, open up that space, you know, bring in these different types of conversations. A lot of the stories I want to write, you know, because I'm Malawian, they will be with Malawian leads and, you know, different country leads, because we are not just foreign nationals, but we also sometimes are very integrated into this life. You know what I mean? We are living in South Africa, born here, but we have different experiences even in this space. And I definitely think my contribution is to look at South Africa through the lens of someone who is a first generation immigrant. You know what I mean? And I think that would be I think that would definitely be very interesting.
I think on a very personal level, one of my biggest aspirations is to build sustainable finance models, you know, for independent producers, you know, because once we are able to create a pot that can finance films, we're also able to focus on some of the aspects that we haven't been able to focus on with the current models, like being able to really go into the development process and really build that. It's one thing having great cameras and good lighting, but without enough support when it comes to development, the stories do fall short. And I think that's what I really want to do. I would love my legacy to be that, to be able to bring in corporate money into the space and for everyone to be able to eat.
I'm for those people that be doubting themselves, that think that when you try from the other side, it doesn't work, you must give up. I'm that child that my contributions are to say you gotta look up to people like me that go through everything and still come out strong. I mean, there's no limitation in this world. You just gotta, just give it your all and you're gonna see the result instantly. It doesn't just happen a day or 2 days, whatever the case may be. But my contributions are just that for the kids to have faith, like faith and believe. And yeah, man.
Sure. This podcast has taught me a lot.
Phew, what has this podcast not taught me? Should be the question.
The podcast has taught me so much. Oh my word.
The podcast has taught me that I haven't done shit at all, because when people come here and speak, I'm like, what the do I really have to go through this? Are we go through this? Or have I not started my journey yet? So there's a lot that I've learned, and there are some people that really have changed my way of thinking. Like I'm a person that believes in seeing, So, but with other speakers that have came on this podcast, they've really made me realize that I need to be more open-minded. And yeah,
I think my approach to the industry was never to conform to one thing. It was to learn every aspect of it, not just only from a production side, whether it be doing cinematography work, post-production or pre-production. Outside of just that aspect, also the different, from entertainment to documentaries to film to corporate to all sorts, that gives you a rounded view of what the entertainment and the film television industry entails. But through this podcast, my mind got opened up to even a lot more, and how obviously development plays an important role in any form of film and storytelling, so that the stories are good enough, not just only for ourselves, but for the international audience as well. Because we want the people from outside to appreciate our stories. But for that to happen, we need to invest time in telling those stories and telling them proper through the development phase.
For me, because so far it's been mostly producers and directors, I've got to actually learn how they think, because I've always wondered what's the thought process into actually getting them to make such a good film or such a good series or such a good show whatsoever, so having to being able to sit and listen and how they think, it's been really, educational for me, I would say. One thing that has stuck for me, I wouldn't say I've learned it in the Film Biz Show, but it kind of rekindled, is that you always have to take risks, whether something that hasn't been done before. If you feel like what is being done, if you feel like what you think has to be put into film, do it. Don't have that thing of it hasn't been done before. I'm not even sure if someone's gonna agree with it. It doesn't matter how long it takes for you to put that onto the table. If you certain about it and if you wanna stick to it, go through with it. No matter what anyone else says, even if you go to some certain production and they be like, nah, they don't wanna do that. It's fine. Make your own film. Go to indie and just do your own thing. Yeah.
I definitely think the podcast has taught me that no, actually, my problem is I'm looking at things through like this one lens, and I should be able to look at life holistically, right? And look at how to get into the film industry holistically. It's taught me that I need to be patient with myself, that sometimes maybe I didn't take the right steps and I can't be angry at the world. Sometimes we blame this industry for a lot of things, but it doesn't have control over it. Sometimes I didn't even know all the lessons I needed to know. I've only been here for 4 years, but I think I know everything, you know? But I think this podcast has taught me that no, I don't. Even though I'm always open to learning, it made me realize I must also be open to learning even more. I should be open to keeping quiet and listening to what people have to say out there. And I definitely think that it's taught me that there's so many things in this industry right now that are missing and can grow and whatever. And we need to look at this industry as a whole and kind of appreciate what it's given us, but also see, okay, we can do better. Let's keep doing better. Let's keep pushing. And also like finding a footing for myself within the industry that makes sense. You know what I mean? I shouldn't wait for someone to save me. I shouldn't wait for someone to give me a big break. How about I just keep creating until whatever happens, happens. So it's definitely taught me a lot about that. It also taught me a lot about putting more effort into development. I thought I was doing well, but no, I need to really think about what do I want from beginning to end for my product before people can believe in me. Because why should they believe in me when I don't even know what I'm doing, you know? So yeah, it's definitely taught me a lot.
Firstly, it's taught me to stay in my lane and to be okay with that. You know, it's taught me to it's taught me to appreciate the work of everyone in the value chain, and it's taught me to understand that, you know, the passion of everyone who's working to build this counts, the passion of each and every person. And I guess that's why the stakes are so high, because everyone who steps into the space comes with a fire burning, you know, whether it's the grip or the DOP or the focus puller or the actor or the makeup artist. Everyone is in that space with passion, or assuming, you know, and it's taught me to respect that. It's also taught me to really look at the business side of this work, you know, to take charge, to define my story, you know, as a creative entrepreneur, to seek more clarity. We've brought on amazing guests, you know, people that I'm like, when I'm in my alone in my room, I'm just thinking, man, you know, what a privilege and honor to have these conversations with these people. And you know, as mentioned before, because we are all discovering, and some might be ahead than myself, most of them, all of them, you know, are ahead in their journey of discovery in one way or the other. And there's so many nuggets that one learns. But I also, lastly, the biggest thing, you know, another huge thing I've learned is the importance of development. You know, I never truly understood. I thought development, you know, you can just get development finance, write a script, you know, go back and forth with the writer, boom, there we go. But there's much, much more. And, you know, I think, you know, in the upcoming season, we're going to be tilting the soil. We're going to go deep into what development really and truly is and try to explore it as much as possible. Because, you know, I remember once I was passing by Melville and there was a restaurant, I think it was called Catsy's or something. Is it Catsy's? That's in Rosebank. But anyway, there was a restaurant, very famous restaurant, popular restaurant that used to run like for 24 hours, you know. And I was, you know, I used to stay that side. So, and I saw that restaurant and I realized the serving area where we eat, you know, is I mean, you don't see it when you get into the restaurant, but it's smaller than the actual kitchen. The kitchen is way bigger, you know. And I thought it would be the other way around, you know, where people sit. It's like, because like from the outside, you can see the windows. You can see, oh, okay, that's where people are eating, and that's where the kitchen is. And it's that restaurant was doing extremely well, especially before COVID. And for me, it just hit me, you know, to say, you know, the preparation process has to take much longer, has to be much more in depth than the actual presentation process. And most of the time, as creatives, we rush for presentation, and we don't spend much time in tilting. I mean, I'm going through processes now where I'm developing, projects, and some of these projects, this is like the fourth year. We've gotten some money to build scripts and realize that it's not always just about that. It's really, you have to be patient enough to tilt that soil, to wait for the right seasons, for your kitchen to be bigger than for your dining area. And then that's when you have the best food. So, there's a lot of nuggets that one has learned.
So please, if nothing else, you yourself, as you watch episode 1 up until this episode, and you realize how much knowledge you'll find that will prepare you, worse if you're young, or rather better off if you're young, prepares you for the industry at large, There's so much I've learned. And I think if anything else, one is working on trying to implement a lot of these things that have been discussed on the show. And because just watching and learning without implementation, that's also a problem. So I think that's it for me. There's just, there's a lot.
Advice I'd give young filmmakers is, 1, be open to learning. You are young, and that is okay. And I know you're probably young, and in your 20s, you think you know everything. I'm also in my 20s, and I'm young, and I think I know everything. You don't. You need to learn from the bigger people out there. You know what I mean? There's so many people who are paving the way for us. There's so many people who have put in so much work and footing in this industry, guys. It's ridiculous. And not all of them, you don't know all of them, but they've done so much for us. And you want to throw them out because it's like, it's my time. It's not your time yet. It's okay. Like, you just came out of film school. Like, guys, relax. So I think definitely be patient to learning, and like, be patient with your journey and take the steps. It's okay. You don't have to become a director at 22. You do not have to become a director by 30. You can go do your second ADing, your first ADing. You can go direct an indie short film, and then you're like, okay, I didn't do that well. Go back to ADing, maybe go to a writer's room, learn what it's like to be a camera person, then also, like, be a little broke for a while, come back and realize what your drive is. I don't know what it is that you need to do, but you need to be patient with your journey and go through it. You're not going to be a big shot by rushing your journey, and it's okay.
It's funny because you can't really give advice to people anymore because everyone's on social media. Everyone is smart, But what I will say is, like, learn. And by learn, I mean, like, coming into the industry. Let's say you only focused on just being a DOP, or just doing sound, or just doing, camera, like unit, whatever you want to do. Don't just focus on that. Whenever you get on set, learn everything. Learn the lingos, learn the times, learn everything. Speak to people. Don't be so closed off, especially when you're still, like, learning, when you're still, like, trying to get into the business. Talk to people. Whenever, like, there's those, like, little times you have, talk to a sound. If you want to be an engineer, a DOP, talk to a sound engineer. See how they think, see what's, right or wrong, and then take everything that you've learned, and then just, like, mix it up and just make your own, like, ingredient into what works for you. Don't just focus on one path. Take everything in, and whatever you come up with, cherry on top. Trust.
Honest, this thing takes, like, Mr. Kev said, you must be patient. Like, it's not something that you can tell someone to do or whatever the case may be, because this has to be you. It's like any other job or any other department. You know what I'm trying to say? You need to be for it, and you need to live for it. Like, when I look at myself right now, I mean, starting from film and getting into music videos, like, that has on its own has just showed me the shift, how easily you can just diverse yourself in this space and just get to understand more and more and more and more and more.
Watch the Film Biz Show. That's my advice to the young generation. Watch the Film Biz Show. Because any questions in any, whether it be curiosity or whether it be anything that you would want to understand that can prepare you for the industry, you'll find it on this platform. I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying I'm being for real, guys. Watch the show. And again, more than anything else, you'll hear that not just only from me, but from everybody else that would have spoken, would have said, be intentful, have intent, know what you want. And obviously, most of the time, the industry is very passion driven. We come into it with passion, but with the passion, understand the business of it as well, so that it guarantees you that as you build yourself, whether it be as a cinematographer or as a makeup artist or as a wardrobe mistress or as a producer, or there's so much that you can do. But with each and every of those things that you choose, be serious about it, and I think that's what we need as well. Young filmmakers who are going to be passionate, and we're going to be serious about telling the stories that matters. Stories that build. Yes, let's laugh and dance. That's also good, but let's tell good stories. Yeah.
Do it. Do it for real. Do it. Like, it's just as simple as that. Step into that space, own your voice, and do it. And I'm seeing these young guys, man, and girls. They're really, stepping out and not apologetic about telling their stories, not apologetic about being who they are. And I'd say, don't wait for anyone. And when the time is right, the teacher will come, So, at times, most times I think as young creatives, we wait for the call, we wait for the job. But I realize in my journey, it's when I'm busy, when I'm just busy by myself, when I'm busy, I generate a busy energy around me, and people come, situations come, whether it's you busy just writing, honing your writing skills, working on your creative skills. That energy is not just something you're doing, it's you are literally releasing something into the universe. And, throughout my career, when I look back, I haven't gotten the biggest gigs in terms of, a 6-year contract with a telenovela, thank goodness. But what I have gotten is long-lasting relationships, and I've gotten, experiences. Every project I've gone through, I've really learned life lessons. And I think from that I've picked up that once you are busy, it doesn't have to be anything anyone knows about. Just being able to channel the energy of productivity, you get to attract the right people who can reciprocate that energy.
You're going to see some of your friends doing better than you. It is what it is. Sometimes you are the friend who's doing better and then you fall. It is what it is. You just need to understand that your journey has steps for a reason and you need to appreciate them. But you definitely need to listen and learn from the older generation and realize that you don't have to take their place, but you are taking a new place. They are still there and kind of, just appreciate them and appreciate what this industry is about. And another thing, I beg of you guys, please can you start doing your research about things like set etiquette, what your job entails, what you want to become. Have passion about what you're doing. If you love what you're doing, you want to know more about it. Don't come on set and think that you are big shot, in all aspects of it. Have set etiquette, learn and look and pay attention and ask questions and, just remember that you can go and research and learn something and always remember that. I definitely think that's a big thing that our generation needs to learn. But I'm excited for us, guys. We have really great stories. I just think that don't jump ahead of what you can do. You have so much potential, and if you cut yourself off, you're not going to get as far as you want to. Yeah.
Check out this music video that's gonna drop probably end of November. by Tang Fu featuring Supreme 101 and G-Tech. I mean, directed by yours truly, Mr. 1500 on a dash, man. You don't play with us, you know what's up.
The movie I'll recommend. So this movie is called The Grandmaster. It came out in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of the most beautifully shot films I've seen. Obviously, speaking from my opinion, everybody else, has their own film. But for me, this film, like from the first scene or the first shot to the last, everything looks amazing. The cinematography, the lighting, the composition, the use of elements. You can freeze frame any moment in that film and copy it and put it as a frame and hang it on your wall. That's how beautiful it is. And obviously the storyline as well, not just only from a visual perspective. So please, if you can, I'll recommend you watch The Grandmaster. Yeah, there's a bit of, kung fu there. We like action.
A movie that I would recommend is an honorable mention that I said earlier, which is Robin Williams. His movie is Patch Adams. And reason why I say that movie is because I like movies that have me thinking at the end of them. I don't just like watching something and then once I'm done, like maybe 10 minutes later, I forgot what was the whole scenario or what was the whole agenda of the movie. I like having to think about it. And what that does for me, firstly, what I like about the movie is that it also talks about like you're never too late to start what you want to do. Whether you want to be a doctor and you want to start learning it at 30 years old or whatever, you're never too late to go follow your dream. That's one thing that it teaches you. Another that it teaches you is that you have to take risks. Like that's something that I'm very big on, because we can't all be doing the same thing. You have to have your own light. You have to shine. Don't dim yourself for others. Always try and shine the best way you can. But at the same time, don't try and bring other people down while you're trying to shine. That doesn't work. So those are the two reasons why I say Patch Adams. Take risks, and you're never too late to follow your dreams. A series that I would recommend, I would say The Good Doctor. I don't know, maybe some people would like it, but I would recommend it. The Good Doctor. What I can say is that it's another thing that like I said before, it helps you think. Do you know what I mean? And you just see like things differently. Like when it comes, because with The Good Doctor, it doesn't just talk about like the medical world and all of that. Like you get to learn each character individually, how they think, the stuff that they say, there are some certain quotes that you can take from there and use into your daily life. Yeah.
It's so hard for me to recommend a film or series because I watch everything, but I'll try recommend a few and give you short reasons why. I'll be quick, guys, don't worry. I think the first one I would like to recommend, I was thinking about it recently, is Late Bloomer. It's a dope movie by Amy Jepta. It's on Showmax. It's so good, guys. Like, it's one of the first South African films I watched that felt like an indie film and felt like its own thing, and just, it felt so nice, very chilled, easy Sunday watch, when it's raining kind of thing. I love that film so much, and I don't know what it is about it that just makes me feel happy when I think about it. Just a nice comedy drama, and I definitely think you should definitely check it out. Another one is They Clone Tyrone. That movie is experimental and it's really cool. I love movies that create a new world and a new style and play with wardrobe and makeup and set design in such an amazing way. And I love sci-fi. So I think it was, and I love Jamie Foxx. I think it was such a dope film. And if you have not checked it out, guys, you got to check it out, especially for the elevator scene, okay? Like, if you know, you know. But it's great. And I think it's a good example of how we can experiment and try new things and go out of the box and create such masterpieces, especially as Black people. Another one that I watched is The Marvels. I went to the early screening and it was amazing because we were just, I think it was so nice when you're with a community of people who like the movie you're watching and everyone is just cracking up, bruh. That movie is hilarious. And I think, Marvel really tries to hit with comedy sometimes, and lately it's not been the best. Not naming names, but I think the Marvels is a good example of mixing comedy with some serious information and drama and stuff like that. Even if it's not your favorite in the world, I know people have their thing, but it was hilarious to me. I freaking enjoyed it. It was so great, and the company I had was great. So yeah, those are some of the things I'm going to recommend. The Fall of the House of Usher. I forgot his name, but the guy who made all 4 of those TV shows. Watch everything he makes. He's so good at thriller horrors. Oh my god, impeccable. I look up to him. He's a great.
Okay, this is the tough part, because I mean, my colleagues clearly know better films, and they are, much, they're connoisseurs in terms of, watching great content. But I think I am going to choose a local, favorite. It's a film that's just gone out. It's just been released recently on Netflix. It's called Big Nunu's Little Secret, starring Tony Miambo and Jefferson Chabalala, produced by Kagiso Lidija. He also did a cameo there. And I just it was refreshing for me, because obviously I know the guys from the theater space, personally, and I loved how those were those are characters I want to see. I want to see the normal guy, the guy who's a courier guy. I want to see the weird boss who's, those nuances, and for me, I found them very interesting. And I love the fact that we're not, playing the usual, but we're trying to get real actors, who are, who've been in the space for a long time. Maybe for some people's first time to see Tony and Jeff. But trust me, those guys have been really pushing boundaries in terms of, making their own work in the theater space. And I'm so glad Tony Miambo, Kagiso Lidija was, tapped into that talent. Because the truth is, storytelling has nothing to do with sex appeal. It's nothing to do with gloss. For me, it has everything to do with truthfulness. And yes, it was a bit of an action comedy, but I could relate. I could relate with those guys, man. And I think we are doing a great job as a country, and we still have quite a bit to go.
Thank you for watching this episode.
Film Biz Show, thank you for watching this episode. 15 high and dash and they don't play with it.
Thank you for watching this episode.
Thank you for watching this episode.
Thank you for watching this episode. Watch the other one and the next one and all of them.